welcome to Our Point of View. Tonight is going to be the fellas' night. Last week was all ladies, and they did a good job, but it's our turn. Tonight, who do we have the pleasure of having with us? Fellas?
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Hey, listen, Derek Jackson is on. Working through my you got these computer gremlins, but it's great that, to your point, the ladies were a couple weeks ago. Now is men's night. We're going to talk about some politics, which is my forte. I'm a state representative here in Georgia, and, of course, some football, and looking forward to it.
All right, cool. So, let's see. We have Mr. Cote on here. Hello, sir. How you doing today?
I'm well. Hi, I'm David Cote. I'm a director, actor, educator. I'm happy to be on with you fellas tonight and to talk about some things.
All right, cool. Mr. Chauncey Jackson, how you doing, sir?
What's going on? Chauncey Jackson. I'm a student at Georgia State and I'm an entrepreneur. Happy to be here with you guys. Get some good talk in. Nice to meet you.
All right. Then we got Mr. Harold Jenkins. How you doing, Mr.
Hey, what's going on? Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. Prior military, I flew helicopters in the Army. Now I work for GE Healthcare, managing service business in the Atlanta metro area. And just looking forward to the fellowship and having a good time tonight.
All right, cool. Nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you as well.
Mr. Bonafide Fly. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's going on, man? I'm Fly. I'm out of Atlanta, Georgia. Entrepreneur, artist. Good friend of Mike Sheely. We on here to talk about a couple things. This is my first time on here, but pretty knowledgeable in a couple areas, so I can keep up. Nice to meet y'all.
All right. Then the one and only Mr. Antoine Tobias. How you doing, sir? Long time.
Hey, man. How y'all doing? My name is Antoine Tobias. I'm an actor, comedian, writer. I'm out here in LA. I think I'm the least expert in any of these subjects, but we still gonna have a good time. That's cool.
All right, then we got Mr. Ron Peters. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you? And how's everybody this evening?
Pretty good, sir.
Good. I'm retired. Been retired for about 10, 11 years. It just kind of open to whatever the discussion kind of goes this evening.
All right.
The nice thing about being retired is you can become proficient to a degree in a lot of areas.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at right now.
All right. So, Derek, you said you wanted to recap on politics. What did you have in mind?
Yeah, so I want to start the conversation off, fellas, around politics, right? I mean, all this year, we keep hearing about, the women strolling to the polls. That was one part of the conversation around politics. But the other part of politics, they were saying how black men don't vote. Black men are not engaged in politics. And I just don't believe that's true. And so I just want to kick it off with a simple question, and we can go round table on this. Not because I'm a state legislator, but I believe black men have a voice as well. What are one or two things, brothers, that from a political standpoint, that if you had the opportunity to talk to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, what would be one or two things that are interests that you want to have that conversation with? And we just go right around my screen. Starting with you, Mike. What are one or two things that you would want to talk to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris about as it relates to those things for black men?
One thing that I know is big now is police brutality. I would want them to make it more like strict to become an officer. Like I feel like it's harder to get a loan for a business than it is to become a state officer or like even a county officer. I feel like they should have more rigorous like trainings to see like where their mental is before they are actually given a gun, because then we'll have less crimes and less kids being killed, mothers having to bury their sons, and like it's just, I feel like that's where it needs to start. That's where the nitty gritty is on our daily streets.
Okay. And I'm just going right around on my screen. Ron Peters, sir, what are one or two things you would want to talk to Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris about?
First thing I would want to talk to them about would be situation around medical care. Because, you know, we started with the Obama Care Act, and then we're not quite sure where, well, we kind of know where Trump was trying to take us. So I'd like to know what Biden's plan would be to either continue to do what we're doing or what's going to change differently. My concern really is for like Medicare and Social Security. Because what we see happening now is that with a lot of people becoming entrepreneurs and a lot of companies not providing pension packages, then it's incumbent upon the individual to save for their future, which is retirement, which is where I am. So that's my biggest concern. I'm kind of like on the AARP kind of bandwagon there.
Yeah, no doubt. And we certainly learn how valuable or invaluable healthcare is during this pandemic. My good friend Harold, you're next on my screen. What say you, my friend?
So I go back to, I believe, Mike, what you said in the beginning. I want to just piggyback off of that. We talk about the training for police. The next thing that comes to mind for me is we've got to do something about our justice system and our prison system, right? Because I think that you all know this is out there in the news now more than ever, but that system should not be a system that's trying to make gains, profit gains, right? I mean, it shouldn't be a money maker, right? And because of the way it is now, it gets abused. And as you know, we get incarcerated more than anybody else out there. And so I think there's got to be some massive changes in that arena. And then something else that's near and dear to my heart is education, you know, leveling the playing field for everybody. Derek, we live right here in Fayette County, and you know the differences, you know, as you go further down 74 in terms of the schools and you know, we got great teachers that have great intents, but it's having the resources, right, to make sure that our kids get a great education, are set for, you know, success going forward. So those would be my two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, education is definitely the passport that could take you anywhere you desire, but that criminal justice system is something vicious, and it's been like that since, you know, I'm not sure if everybody saw the 13th on Netflix, but that's where mass incarceration was birthed in the 13th Amendment. All right, next on my screen, I have Mr. David. If you had the opportunity to talk to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, what say you, sir?
I guess, I mean, amongst all the other things that everybody was saying, especially about policing, but I would want to have a conversation with them about the wealth gap and how do we bridge those and give economic opportunities to African Americans, and also education. I think that, you know, because of the way poverty and wealth is set up, it hurts our educational system with taxes and things like that. So how do we bridge those? I mean, I would talk about reparations, but that seemed like a really tough subject for people to really deal with. But there has to be something on an economic level that could help bridge, you know, to make up for some of the lost time that we had and some of the years and years of disparity.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Drew.
Yeah. What's going on? Definitely a lot on board about what everybody just said. I mean, I think it only takes like 6 months to become a cop. That's not really, I don't know. We know that. Okay. Next, definitely education. Like, why are they teaching our kids how to get jobs, and they teaching their kids how to own the jobs that they want our kids to work for? You get what I'm saying? I think a lot of things in education should definitely be like, if they want to build the economy, why aren't you giving out more knowledge as to how to open your own business, or why don't they have that in school? And I think we talk about a lot of irrelevant things. I mean, we can even go as deep as, why are they charging us for natural resources like water and gas? Like, who owns that? Who said that they own natural resources that are here? You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of things that we can get on, but I think that would be a interesting conversation if I was able to have it with them.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship should be part of the curriculum in high school, right? And everything, because to your point, regardless if you decide to go in the military, as we already mentioned with Harold, you know, prior military, as well as myself, but regardless if you go military or college or straight to the workforce, someone having an entrepreneurial spirit is a phenomenal asset to any company, any organization, right? I think we can do better as a society to talk about ways to reduce that wealth gap that David was talking about, because it's more than just talking about salary, right? What's your plan A, B, and C? Are we talking about Wall Street, Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ? Are we talking about the importance of your dollar circulating in your community more than once compared to other communities, right? So, yeah, I think there's some value in that. Chauncey.
Hey, what's going on?
Good, what's good? So if you had the opportunity to talk to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, what are one or two things that, from a Black man's perspective, you would want to share in terms of your interests?
Okay, first, I like what he said about like they charging us for natural resources. I think that'll be a crazy topic to talk about. Right. I think that's something that'll be like big in my opinion. But if I had the opportunity to, ask those questions, it'd be like, what would they do for our Black community, or like helping us Black men? Those are the two questions that I think, because we go through a lot of struggles and stuff, like Mike was saying, and as everybody else was speaking on. But it's like, I don't think that enough focus is on that. You know what I'm saying? I don't really think that the spotlight is not like solely on that, because we're targeted more than anybody out there, and I feel like that's something that should be a big topic, just like talking about like them charging us for natural resources.
Because we are a threat.
Yeah, exactly. They feel like we're a threat. They feel like we're a threat, but because how we look and how we talk or something like that, even if we're respectful, it's still like how we looking like with the dreads. My brother has dreads. So folks see you across the street and you have dreads in your head and they automatically think you're a gangster. You know what I'm saying? Or you from the hood or something like that. But that guy across the street may have his bachelor's degree in computer science. You know what I'm saying? You just judge him. He got tattoos on his arm and can be the smartest kid out there. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's something that really needs focus. You know what I'm saying? Stereotyping, the beards and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff plays a role, and I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about more than what it is right now.
Yeah, so I'm gonna come back to that point, Chauncey, because that's one of the topics we want to talk about tonight, and that is the Black man stereotype, right? There's a profile that someone built. We didn't do it, but someone built what a non-threatening Black man looks like. I don't know what that is, right? Because a person that looks like, I ain't picking on my good friend Harold, but nice clean collar and a tie, he can have a white collar crime that just ripped off $2 billion.
Hold up. Just right? To be clear, just to be clear, like, and Derek knows this. 2 weeks ago, bro, Chauncey, I had what you had. Thing is, mine's all gray. Yeah. So I like to, I like to change it up. I don't like to look like I'm 75. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't want to look 75 years old all the time.
And, no shame November just passed too. I just cleaned mine up a little bit, so I was looking pretty terrible too.
So, but I think it's important though, being in corporate America, that I do have that look, right? I don't want to be clean cut all the time. I like to go to customer sites and they see that I've got, a beard that is longer than just a little, 5 o'clock shadow, right? I like to represent that because they need to know that, hey, we come in all shapes and sizes.
Exactly.
And guess what? I've got the good pedigree, right? I went to a good school and all that, and I still, like to represent the culture. So, I like that. So, Derek, stop pointing at me. Just I got a smooth booty face right now.
Right. Hey, so before we wrap up this round of questions, I want to go to Tobias. Again, Tobias, the question is, if you had the opportunity to talk to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, what are one or two things of a Black man's interest that you would like to share with them?
Well, first of all, I mean, everything that everybody talked about is on the forefront of my mind. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, I can talk about them with a lot of things, but what could I talk about that they can actually do right now and within 4 years? And one of those things, let's talk about these student loans. Can they get rid of them? Because I don't want them no more. I feel like a lot of us educated Black men still got student loans, and I need them to get rid of them. That's first and foremost. Get rid of my student loans. I don't want them. The end. I don't even my degree. I don't even do that no more. So, you know what I mean? But then outside of that, it's ideas of like this idea of defunding the police. You know what I mean? To put a better marketing campaign on what that really means, and the ideology of like taking the funds away from this system. Because I mean, to break down to fix a system is to break down the system, right? Because these systems weren't built to protect us as Black men. The police, the government, none of that was set up to protect us. So in my opinion, it all needs to be taken down and reassembled, right? Like you have to start from the ground up. You don't kill roaches single. You go into the core of it to get rid of roaches out your house. And that's what I feel like needs to be talked about, especially with the police. I think that there needs to be a better marketing program so people understand what it really means to defund the police and actually take action to take those funds. Because even when you're thinking about criminalization, criminals and law breaking comes from the lack of education, the lack of support from the community when it comes to mental health. And if you take some of those funds and put them in better places from the police, you won't really need as many cops anyway. So I feel like they need to focus more on the idea of defunding the police and actually getting people to understand really what that means. Because it sounds like we just get rid of the police and we're going to be out here by ourselves all willy-nilly with no protection, which that's not really what that means. And so I think there needs to be a big focus on that. And everything else that everybody's talking about, I could talk about that stuff all day. I feel like so much reparations. I feel like I would like something sort of what Native Americans got. You know what I mean? And also not only should we get funds that is similar to what Native Americans got, but there should be some sort of education set up for those who get those funds to learn and understand better about finances. I think that, somebody else said we got a raw deal and, it's like slavery's over. All right, now live. And there was nothing really given to the community, and our community lacks because of that. And even when some of us get money, we don't even know how to handle it because we don't have the education to do it. But there's so many things that I think you said too. So I'll stop at that one.
Yeah. Well, I think you raised, as I was going around the screen here, collectively, if you think about what we're saying is there's a significant amount of pressure from society placed on a Black man compared to any other male, right? I mean, it's not, I read somewhere recently that a very poor white man thinks or could think, because of the spirit of entitlement, makes more than all of us collectively, all 10 of us, right? We have more college degrees and all that, but society would empower that individual and go back to what was already mentioned. Based on what we look like, they will limit our opportunities, right? Because of the tattoos or the dreads. And that person could be an engineer. It's just that they want to express and embrace their culture, right? And so I just think that there are times that we need to take the narrative back because words matter, right? We have to say, no, you don't have the right to profile what a black man is because we're not monolithic. A black man is what you see this evening, right? Military, corporate America, entrepreneur, artist, music, acting, fire chief, retired. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So you just can't put us, in one basket and say this is what a black man is because they don't do that to no other. They don't do that to the white men. They don't do that to Asian men. They don't do it to no one else, right? And so we have to take back and say, no, we are professional. We are professors. We are, fathers and husbands and uncles and brothers. And so we just got to make sure that we do not let someone else define us. I think that's the most important thing that I can say as it relates to this segment. I see I got my good friend Eric back. Folks always confuse me and Eric because they'll say Eric Jackson and Derek Jackson, and you say that too fast, we both respond. Right. But what we were sharing, Eric, if we had the opportunity, because there's been a lot of conversation how the sisters were strolling to the poll, and rightfully so, right. And how they lead a lot of effort around the political discussion, especially as it relates to, the Democratic Party. But I'm trying to say that black men are just as concerned, and we have a voice. And so we're just simply going around the screen here and saying, if we had the opportunity to talk to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, what are those one or two things that we want to share and say, this is from a black man's view?
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if, and it's great, man, to see you all, see you brothers here, man. It really is. I don't know if it was mentioned, but that one thing, man, that really just sticks out of my mind is that pipeline, man, that pipeline of prison. That thing just needs to be busted up, disintegrated, imploded, whatever adjective you want to use. We have to address that. And there's a whole entire educational component that goes with that. There's a whole learning and almost a rebooting of our brothers and our sisters collectively, but of our brothers to really move away from that and not find ourselves in those situations. And I believe Brother Tobias had mentioned it too when he talked about law enforcement and how that whole system really needs to be broken down and started over again. And likewise, the same with this, because there's far too many of us occupying these prisons, both government and non-government funded. And it's an entire business. It's a $1 billion business, probably even more than that. And it's off of our backs. And as a result of it, we're not around our families. We're not here to grow our children, the future, the proverbial our future.
In those vital years.
Yeah. And so we just have to be able to, if we're looking honestly at ourselves, we have to just be able to put ourselves in a much better position. And not so much that, making better choices. But again, it's a collective effort, and it's something that goes along the lines of when you're talking about justice reform, prison reform, and how we can really start reversing those effects, something that's really affected us for a long time.
Yeah.
Can I say something to piggyback on that? I think that what people really, as far as what you're saying, I think what people really need to understand is that, first of all, it's modern day slavery, the prison system, right? It's literally modern day slavery. And you have to understand that America has never has never been a successful superpower without free labor from Black people, especially Black men, right? It's never happened. It was slavery, and now it's the prison system. And this country has never been able to be a superpower without our free labor. And I think that's something that, that's another question. That's something we got to talk about is how do we fix that? It's like, if you can't be a superpower and you can't get rid of your deficit and your debt without free labor from Black people, then what do you do? What is the other option? Because right now we're saying we ain't doing it no more, and it's not okay. Whether it's people who committed a crime or whether it's slavery, back in the day slavery, either way it doesn't work. And I think that's the issue that we have to address, which is why I talk about the police system, because when it comes to that pipeline, those are the slave catchers still today. And that's why I think this idea of defunding the police is so important, because it all connects, it's all together. And it's just simply these 1%ers create somebody said in a room, it was like, dang man, we got to stop slavery, like slavery, but we still need to make the money and we still need them to do the work. So what do we do in order to do it under the system? And it just trickled all the way down to the day where you had the crack epidemic and all these other issues that keep it going, which is why we're called super predators, or we're called super predators. And it's like this whole marketing campaign so that we can continue to do free labor for the country that we live in. And nobody's really, I mean, people are talking about it. I mean, you have the 13th, you have Ava DuVernay and people like that. But I think we have to really look at it in that way to say, when you're in prison in that way, you are a modern day slave. And once people begin to really look at it in that way, then we can start, like I say, you got to go to the nuclei of what it is. Once you start looking at it that way, then we can start dismantling and figuring out a better way.
So if I could just jump in on that, I'll be honest with you. I'm not really sure about how I feel as it pertains to defunding the police. I certainly think that there's training and things of that nature to go on, and maybe some funds can be, pushed in different direction for other programs. But I think that even for those, I say that the police issue to me is more on the killing of Black men. That's a concern that I have. I think as it pertains to the prison system, that goes back to our legal and justice system, right? I mean, why are we being put in prison for sentences that are much longer than others, or we get put in system for something that someone else gets put off? They don't have to go to jail, right? They get put off for that. They don't have to serve any time. I think that there has to be justice in our legal system for things like that to change.
Yeah, I agree. The reason why I focus so much on this, and I wish I had done some more research so I can sound smarter, but this is what we're gonna get right now. It's statistically, when you look at arrests, when you look at the issues that are happening when it comes to the police, right? There are other crime is created because of mental health issues, because of the lack of funds in the community, because of the lack of education in the community, because of the lack of support from social work, like all these things. That's why we got so much crimes in our community. That's why because we don't have the funds for it. What I'm saying is that we do need some sort of police, or we'll call them something else, fire department number 2. I don't know. We do need people to help protect and serve, right? But that system gets so much money, billions of dollars, that if some of that money was taken away and put in other sectors in our communities, we wouldn't need all of them. The reason why we need so many cops is because there is no money anywhere else, so people begin to commit crime. So I know it. That's why I say it's a terrible marketing campaign to say defund the police, because it sounds like we about to leave everybody naked out here with no protection. But what I'm saying is, with all that money funding them, with the type of weapons that they have, with the type of training that don't work anyway, the money that we spend, it can go in other places in our communities that would cause us to not even need as many. Like, sometimes you don't need 6 police. You need 2 police officers and a social worker and a mental health worker. You don't always need guns blazing. That's not what we need. Other countries do it, and they're just fine. They do it just fine. But we're such a military type regime.
No, I agree.
So Tobias, isn't it easier, instead of having a campaign, right? Because I don't believe in bumper stickers. as an elected official, I don't have a bumper sticker, right? I don't believe in, in trying to define a particular platform in 2 or 3 words. I just think you miss the whole boat. But when folks do, they're like, okay, what do you mean by defund the police? We don't know what that means, right? I think it's easier to articulate it and say, we don't want the police to look like the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine.
Right.
We want police to be better trained, better qualified, trained in mental health, right? I think that's where the conversation can be better focused, right? When you try to come up with a particular campaign, we lose sight of what the real issues are, right? And again, I go back to Harold's point. We don't want no more hashtags. We don't want no more hashtags. We don't want no more, black men and black women being killed by law enforcement. So let's fix it. And if fixing is improving our public education, providing more programs in our communities, then we need to spell that out. And I think as black men, we can articulate exactly what we want and what we need in our community because we are in our community. When we use a bumper sticker, it gets lost in the sauce because people don't know what the scope is, how to define it, how to resource it, and you end up with nothing.
Right. Well, that's why when I say marketing campaign, I don't mean like a literal marketing campaign. I mean that there needs to be more attention focused on the idea that the police need support, is what I'm saying. The police need support. People who are qualified to be just by who you are as a person, just because you're qualified to be a police officer does not qualify you to handle other situations when it comes to mental health, when it comes to situations in our community. Everybody just don't, like I can handle a person with mental health. I don't want no gun. I'm not trying to shoot nobody. I'm not trying to be shot at. I don't need all that. That's not me. I'm a lover, not a fighter, but I can definitely talk to somebody, right? That's my gift. That is who I am. That's my God-given talent, right? So I don't want to be a cop, but a lot of times we're saying we need to retrain cops. It's like some police officers can't be trained to do that. That's not who they are as people. So I think the idea is saying we just need support. Police officers need support in our communities because they don't know how to handle the issues within our community, is what I'm saying. We see that because literally they point and they shoot. And they're doing it over and over and over and over again.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Is what I'm saying.
Derek, can I just make a point?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Not to reshift it away from that, because that certainly is a very important topic. What I tend to do at problems like this is to kind of look within, and I think within our community, I see a greater need for accountability and responsibility on the part of Black men. I think it's okay to look and say racism, police, all these other different factors, but I think it's another one to say, what are we doing about it? My most recent part-time position was working at a fatherhood center. I'm in New Jersey, so it was in Trenton, which is our state capital. Mm-hmm. And I had young men from 25 to about 60 years of age. And it was amazing. Many of them came from the prison system. They were ex-criminals. The biggest thing that I found in that system was lack of education, lack of skills, lack of application of any skill that they did have. And many of them had the get by type of mentality. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, so I know I'm probably much older than most of you guys online. And I can tell you that a lot of the issues that you're talking about have been around at that particular time. So the question that I ask myself is, how do we persevere to move to the point that we are today, when we seem to be stuck today on the same issues that were back 40, 50 years ago?
Right.
And I know when I came out of school, my father's plan coming up from South Carolina was very simple. What are your goals? I'm gonna give them to you. 2 of them. You're going to college or you're going to get a skill. Character building, morals. You look now, the media has really distorted the character of the Black man. And what's happened is you see it in the form of all these different characters in the movies and all these different portrayals of what Black males look like, and people tend to believe what they see on TV. Right. You know, if you saw more Huxtable type families, you would believe that there's probably a solid group with that. If you see more rapping and cussing and booty slapping, then you probably think that's pretty much what we're into. And we do have people in position that can help to change that. As a former sales manager, the one thing I tried to do was to make sure that my workforce was diverse, that it reflected the marketplace that I managed my people in. What I find is that sometimes when some of us get into positions in order to hire other people who look like us, we don't often do that. And back to the point of just one last point on entrepreneur, the best entrepreneurs that I've seen have always been a part of some system, so they understand how to systematically run their business. Because you can go out with all the talent in the world, all the skill in the world to do something, but you have to understand the system of business. And what better way to get that? And I'm not talking about a formal degree oftentimes, I'm just talking about being educated, well-versed, and trained on some of those fundamental skills that are needed to run and operate a very successful business. And I know those of you in Atlanta, you know, hats off to the many businesses that we see up here in the North that seem to be very successful there.
Well, you know, this is, you know, and I didn't pay Ron, I just, full disclosure, but this is a good segue for the next segment. Old school versus new school. Because see, Ron said, you know, he grew up in the 50s and the 60s. I didn't. But we hear this when it comes down to Black men. Old school, the OGs, David, will say, man, y'all don't know how good y'all have it. That's what they'll tell the new school. So it's like almost this, how society created this beef between those who have led the way in the 50s and 60s to get us where we are in 2020, but those in 2020 would say, nah, bruh, this how we do it now, right? You didn't have a computer in the 50s. The days have changed. I mean, even relationships, David, has changed, right? So let's talk about the old school versus new school real quick. There are some differences, right?
Right.
So
listen, Hope, can we define what's old school, what's new school, and then also I want to go back to.
I'm glad you said that, Hero. And again, I didn't pay Hero.
I'm not that old school.
Oh, but I'm about to say I know I didn't get a check, so I was about to say if you pay somebody else, I'm gonna have some issues.
But think about it though. I mean, so when I think of old school, I think of good times. We all grew up with good times, right? I mean, hardworking man, trying to take care. But then new school says Blackish. Dre, corporate senior VP, got the, six-figure car, making millions every day, wearing sneakers in the corporate office, right? Very different.
There, can I just frame up one word? The big difference for me is opportunity. When I came out of high school in '69, there were very few opportunities for me to even find a place to live that was desirable because they would not rent to Blacks. To get into corporate America was very limited. I had to find and bury connection. So it's just opportunity. That's the only thing, because I used to be a high school teacher as well. That's the only thing that I used to tell my students is you have to see, you guys have much more opportunity to go places because some of those doors have been opened, some of those trails have been blazed. And what we're just trying to encourage them is to take advantage of opportunities. Don't squander them. Kind of like what you do. I was watching the football game today. My team's the Pittsburgh Steelers. We won today, 11-0. And they almost lost the game to a very COVID-ridden Baltimore Raven team. The difference was Baltimore stayed in the game because opportunities presented themselves. And that's the only difference I see between new school and old school is there's a lot more opportunities. Like we didn't see that many Blacks there was no BET. There was no Black actors. You didn't have your high level and your B's and your C level actors. They didn't exist during that time. Now they do. And I think most people my age, we accept that. We want that. But now that we have that foothold, we've got to take it to the next level. And that's what I meant by accountability and responsibility. Each of us as a Black male has a responsibility. If you have kids, you should be talking about seizing the opportunity. You can't do it selling crack on a corner. You can't do it by having 4, 5, and 7 different kids by different baby mamas. Not that that's everybody, but I'm just saying that you can't squander opportunity when it's presented. And we do have a lot of opportunity. I mean, Obama is president. Now we have a female vice president, about to take over. That's opportunity. And if you look at the cabinet post, the people that are going to be involved in, I think the majority of them I'm seeing so far have been women. Yeah. So when you look at that, that's taking advantage of opportunities. It was one of the reasons why I think we worked so hard to make sure that the White House took on a completely different mentality and leadership, because we didn't see those opportunities the last 4 years, the way this country was ran.
What about you, David? What are your thoughts? This whole old school versus new school?
I totally agree with the opportunity part, but a lot of times, other thing too is it's about the narrative that is put out that we have no control over at a certain point too. Like I see a lot of times when they're talking about Black men and their families and being in the household, but I'm an educator too. I teach high school, and I see a lot of fathers in the homes. So it's it's kind of a catch-22. It's like, what we really see and what is being told to us, do we really believe that? Even with the whole thing about the voting and Black men and the way they voted, more Black men voted in that way than they did the other way, but you're going to hear the narrative that Black men are not supporting, you know what I mean? So it's about really, and even with the Huxtables and all of that, well, now opportunity. Now we have Black writers in the room. It used to be a Black person get killed off the first 5 minutes of the movie. But that's because there was no Black writer say, well, really that Black person not going to do that. You know what I mean? So it's about opportunity. It's all about opportunity. And a lot of times, even in the educational system, just because it's the prison to school pipeline, all of that, it's all about the way our opportunities come to us in our community. And when they don't come, that's when we get caught up in things that are unproductive. When I was coming up, we had recreational centers to go to. We had things in the community to be involved in. Now these kids, now they don't even have school right now. So, the more time you got to sit around and think about things that don't advance you as a person or as a citizen, then you get into things that you don't normally need to be into. And then we're over police. At the same time, two people committing the same, white person committing the same thing that a Black person, hey man, you stop that. Hey, what's your name? What you doing? Where you coming from?
What's your license?
You treated like a perpetrator. Every time I get stopped by the police, like I have been stopped by the police like 6 times in 2 years.
So no, you raised some good points, David. So Michael, you're new school, Michael.
Yeah. You,
Tobias, and Drew, y'all new school, right? Me and Harold, we're in the middle. We're in the middle.
Mid school.
But so Michael, when you hear opportunities from an old school perspective, they say, hey man, the world is your oyster. You are lacking nothing. Do you see those opportunities that David and Ron just spoke of?
Absolutely. First of all, there's social media. Like, that's the biggest opportunity out. Like, you can build a whole business from your phone now. You can make millions of dollars from your phone. Like, I know for a fact, if some of you all had those when you were our age, you will be in a different part of life right about now. I just feel like the thing is that my generation, we come off as a little ungrateful because we feel like we are entitled to these opportunities because, like, oh, they were made for us. It's our, no, they were made to help support, but if you don't use them, then they can't do anything for you. And then you sit here like, oh, why am I in this situation? And why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? Because you're not using your resources. Like, you can have a phone full of people that can take you to the next level, but you feel entitled that they should call you instead of you calling them. So I feel like each person is different, but that is a big thing. Like, my people feel entitled, so it's just, what about you, Chauncey?
I just wanted to jump in there real quick on that entitlement piece, if I could.
Go ahead.
So I agree, but I would say too that sense of entitlement, at least to me, it was kind of like the game changer with all that was going on, over the past several months, right? Because there was a sense of entitlement, like, you know what, you're not gonna hold me down. We do demand that we get treated differently than we've been treated. And that's different than, I would say, for the most part, for like mine and Derek's generation, right? I mean, we would not always, right? But there was a certain, hey, you know what, just obey, do what you're told, stay in line, don't get in trouble, as opposed to that thought of getting in good trouble. And I think that part of the entitlement, I think, is a beautiful thing for the younger generation, and I hope it continues to grow. And I apologize for jumping in right there.
Yeah. No. I think you raised a good point, Harold, because as Mike was talking, I was thinking the same thing, because our generation, we're told, wait your turn. Barack Obama was told, wait your turn, dude. You're young, wait your turn. Then Barack turned around and took a quote from old school and said, the urgency of now, right? So, Chauncey, when you hear this whole new school, old school, because I already know where Tobias going to go. Tobias already peeked his hand. Drew already peeked his hand too. But Chauncey, what's your thoughts about this whole new school, old school, those who grew up in the 50s, 60s compared to, because I like what David and Ron broke down, the use of opportunity. I wrote that down because I love to do mentorship. Opportunity is an excellent word to talk to some of my mentees that are 17 and 18 about opportunities. But what say you, Chauncey, when you talk about old school versus new school?
Opportunity is big. Like, that's huge. You know what I'm saying? I think what's different about old school and new school, yeah, we got social media and all that stuff, but one thing that's huge to me that our age group don't really, think about, because of social media, is networking. Networking with everybody. We so caught up in the phones and all this. Oh, I can text this person, I can do this, Oh, I see them, they got 1.2 million followers on Instagram. So let me go shoot them a text message. But if you see them in person, you quiet. You know what I'm saying? Networking, I feel, is one of the biggest things that you guys' generation is kind of starting to fade now. You know what I'm saying? Some folks in our generation, like me, I love the network. I love to speak to new people, folks that can take me to that next level. But it's a lot of folks in our generation, like when it comes to opportunity, when we feel ungrateful and all this, that, and the third, they feel like what Mike said, they feel like they should come to us instead of us going to them. Because if I see somebody if I go to like a meeting or something and I see somebody, all right, cool, my field is computer science. I know this guy over here is the head of this department. Why not go speak to him? You know what I'm saying? We sit back in the corner and look, you know what I'm saying, as everybody else is talking, rather than going to attack this guy, like not physically, but, attacking me, like getting into his brain, you know what I'm saying, picking his brain, looking for mentorships and all that stuff. And I feel like that's something big that you guys have held on to and grasped, because to this day, networking is still huge with you guys' generation. It's fading with ours, and I feel like that should come back more. You know what I'm saying? With these opportunities, it comes networking. You know what I'm saying? You can't get opportunity. It's like now in today's society, you have to know people, you know what I'm saying, in certain situations to get the job that you want. You know what I'm saying? Get the opportunity, the internships that you want. And if you're not knowing these people or speaking with these people or having like a connection or communicating with them, they don't know you. You know what I'm saying? You're just another person on the list that come on their computer or another application that comes on their desk. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, oh, I know Chauncey, he's this type of guy. He's a hard worker. He's an entrepreneur. He does this, that, and the third, X, Y, Z. but we don't do that anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's trickled down so much that networking is almost non-existent because of social media. And that's what I feel like with the opportunity part.
And you know, that's one of the things that I mentioned before was foundational skills. You know, communication, learning how to write, learning how to talk. Because of texting, a lot of people don't really read what they write, or they short it to where the reader has to interpret what the person writing has said.
Right.
And then we end up putting that in papers. We end up not even realizing when we type in that we end up putting something in the paper, and it's not even a word, you know?
Right.
Exactly. And realizing that when you talk, when you're speaking to someone, you know, if I want you to understand me, I have to be able to speak your language, you know, in a way in which you understand it. And it doesn't matter if I'm black, white, or purple. You still have to understand what it is I'm trying to say. And I sometimes in the morning I watch First Take with Stephen A. And one of the things that I like about Stephen is he has mastered the art of debate. Sometimes when you hear a lot of brothers debating, it still gets into yelling, then it gets into a misunderstanding, then it escalates from there. Right. And when you see someone really debate and you see the skill of debating, which is a lost art, then you can become very effective, because then you can sit at the table and you can help in the decision-making process. And that's really what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get a seat at the table so we can change the narrative as to how this comes out. You can affect police. You can affect legislation, which is what you're doing there. You can affect a lot of things in your community if you can get that seat at the table.
And it's crazy that you spoke about debating too. Like, that's another thing with our generation, right? We take debating as being disrespected instead of like getting another opinion. And then we run from debating to violence, you know, and that leads to other things. And then that's when we spoke about earlier about like incarceration. You know what I'm saying? We filling up these jails and prisons because of the stupid stuff we're doing, because somebody has an opinion on what you have to say. We take it as being disrespectful. And next thing you know, somebody got to go grab a gun because they feel disrespected, you know, and that's big. That's what I just want to comment on that little part right there.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Chauncey. But, you know, I believe is between old school and new school. And I'm going to come to Eric and Harold on this. And it's one word too, Ron. It's not opportunity. The real struggle between old school and new school, the one word is power. Old school don't want to relinquish power. New school says, I ain't going to wait. I'm going to take it. And so then, Eric and Harold, you got this clash where it could be, you know, to Chauncey's and Mike's point, right? We can really do this right and say, yo, bruh, here's the baton. If you need me, I'm right here. I'm going to push you. You don't have to pull it. But Eric, Harold, the challenge between old school and new school, from my vantage point, is power. Those who've been in office 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they'll look at Tobias and says, it ain't your time. Tobias like, nah, bruh. I got 1 million followers and I'm coming to take it.
Thanks.
Let's talk about that for a second, Eric and Harold. This thing about power between old school and new school. One have it, the other one doesn't want to relinquish it, the other one's want to take it. Let's break this thing down. Let's be real.
Well, you know, it's interesting, and just to go back, I'm that 1968 baby, you know, who came up tail end of the 60s into the 70s, into the 80s. And yeah, that's so true, because in that era, you know, you worked hard for what we had to achieve because it wasn't easy to get. You know, you had to put in time and to make that extra effort. And once you got hold of it, yeah, you didn't want to let it go because you worked too hard for it. And you didn't want it to slip through your hands. But at the same time, and I believe this is where the divide is, where the challenge is passing the baton. You know, we're in the same relay race and we're running, and I don't want to fumble the baton, but at the same time, I'm being stingy with it and don't want to give it away, because once you give it away, it's gone. and you feel as though, yeah, you're relinquishing the power. I did all this research. I did all this back work. Went to school for all these years to learn this, and now you just want it, without having gone through what myself or folks like Brother Peters and you, DJ, and some of these other more distinct, well, I should say more distinguished, but brothers with a little more gray hairs on their head have done, but realizing, hey, the future is taking off in a whole nother trajectory, a whole nother direction. And we just got to be willing to let it go. But at the same time, the younger generation needs to be able to listen to what we're telling them, so they don't make the same mistakes that we made.
Right. No,
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. So,
I agree.
I think Derek, it kind of goes back to, what we were saying before in terms of we kind of grew up in this generation where it was like, hey, wait your turn.
Yeah.
Right. So we waited. Now it's our turn. However, the ones behind us, they push, they move, get out the way. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I feel like, and I think that what I've tried to do is same thing. I'm involved in being a mentor. In my position at work, trying to open doors for others to come. And matter of fact, a couple of years ago, it's part of this program they had at GE. They were trying to say, hey, we need to have more diverse talent get promoted. And I went through this program, and my feedback to them was, you know what? At that time, I was, late 40s, because, Eric, I'm born in 1970. My feedback was, you know what? I want y'all to start grooming the 20-somethings that are coming in to take on those big jobs. Get them in the door, get them sponsorship, and get them promoted. Don't worry about me. Right now I'm looking at the clock saying, hey, I'm close to getting to retirement age. You need to focus on the generations that are coming in the door behind me and make way for them. So I certainly believe and agree that there's been this struggle with power. I think it's upon us, this middle generation, if you will, in between the two, to figure out a better way to make sure that while we are teaching, we're also pulling and pushing.
Derek, can I make another comment?
Sure.
Just got another word for you. Contribution. And the reason why I can speak to this, because I went through this. I retired in 2011 as a sales manager for a pharmaceutical company. I'd been in that position for about 30 years. And it was hard to let go and watch new young people come in and take over. So I had to find a new way to contribute. And sometimes people are afraid, as you get older, you're afraid of the unknown, because our society has been really bad at throwing away people with knowledge and people with experience and old people. Look at how some people treat older folks in their community, older people in their family. And so the need to contribute was very strong. So I kind of did what you did. I said, okay, maybe this is time I can start my own business. Maybe it's time I could take and find a venue to share that knowledge and information that I gained through the many years that I've been out in the workforce to help some other young person come up and grab the ball and continue forward. So you're right, and you do have to take that, you have to change that perspective. But I was looking for was, if I continue to work, I'll continue to contribute. Now I just have to learn to contribute in a different manner. And what helped me to see this was when I watched football and basketball players. What happens to them? We're real quick as fans to tell him he needs to quit, he needs to retire, they need to trade him. But then, he's got ego too. Tom Brady's still playing at 43. And you say, well, why is he out there sacrificing his body? Because the game, being able to contribute. And you just have to now find different ways in order to do that. So that's one way that we can bridge the gap of moving some of that power and control that we have to some of the younger people. As long as they're willing to listen and take counsel, advice, because we all need counsel at some point. And I think that's one thing in our community that we don't seek enough of. So that's kind of a critical point. We don't really seek counseling in terms of careers, and oftentimes in terms of marriages in our family and relationships, that would be very beneficial, especially on someone was talking about the mental health aspect. Counseling would really help in that avenue as well.
I feel like in my generation too, it's most people move with a chip on their shoulders because they feel like they have something that they have to prove, and they find themselves being uncoachable in certain like topics. Like they feel like, no, I can do it myself. Like I don't need you to show me how to do something. I'm gonna show you that I can go make it myself. But if you just listen, then it'll be a little bit easier. But some people don't want it to be easy. They want that struggle, that grit, that grind, because that's what builds character. So like I really feel like if we worked on our character and how we treat others, and then that will really change a lot, because most of those people that are sitting in these jails that we're trying to defund, they're sitting in there because their character was tested one day, and that one day changed your life for the rest of your life. I know, like, I hate to say it, but one of us on here, like, we have to know someone that's sitting in a prison for something that they didn't do, or something that could have went a different way if their character was a little bit more intact and they had a little more patience. I feel like in school, our school system doesn't really teach us what we need to survive. They teach us what they want us to know. They try to set boundaries. I feel like if we have a better finance department, then we'll graduate knowing what to do with our money, not just blowing it on Jordans and sneakers and whatnot. We'll know that, oh, let's go learn how to trade so we can become financially independent, and then we can go and help our families. I look at one billionaire, Dan Pena. He says that most people want to save the world. Well, if you want to save the world, go make $100 bajillion and then go save them. Like, we need to really figure out like where the problem is, and then just start at the source.
Yeah, man. The problem is the Cap said it earlier. The one word that he said that I was just looking for is divide, division. Okay, look. Even what we were talking about right now is division. You talking about old school versus new school. We the only culture, the only race that, oh, he light skinned, I'm dark skinned. You know what I'm saying? And that came from Willie Lynch. We go back to slavery days. We can talk about that all day. But we are the only race that doesn't stick together. What he said earlier, Ron Peters, they have the knowledge. My dad is 73. You know what I'm saying? So I talk to my dad like almost basically every day. I was just with my dad today. And every time I talk to my dad, he always, like, when I talk to my dad, I feel like, damn, how much knowledge can the brain hold? Like, he always teaching me something new. You know what I'm saying? I just like, wow. So you have to, back to what Mr. Peters was saying, we have to be willing to listen to what they say. You know what I'm saying? And again, versus the older guys, y'all gotta be more willing to pass the knowledge. We can't help the time that we was born in, but we can just only help the future. You know what I'm saying? Y'all teach us what y'all taught. We'll implement that and teach to our children to just build a better race the whole time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so how do you get everybody on board with that though? That's another thing. It's hard to get folks to listen. It's hard to get our generation to listen. So how would you implement that? How would you set it up to where, you know what I'm saying, the old school guys teaching us and basically passing the baton on the knowledge if don't nobody want to listen? So how would you go about, you know what I'm saying, just say if you see a guy on the street, you know what I'm saying, the folks selling the water, how would you implement that to them? You get what I'm saying? How would they implement?
We live in a day and age where
you a person that's able to talk to people. You seem like you are the bridge between the gap. It's people like us that can speak to younger people, and we the ones that get it from the older people. We really supposed to already know this. Right. So we already supposed to be putting it out there. You got some that ain't gonna listen. I mean, you can't save everybody. You know what I mean? But like Tupac said, he said, I ain't gonna be the person to change the world, but I guarantee that I'm gonna be the spark in the person that does change the world. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's all we have to do. That's it. And you got to teach them the truth. You can't teach, you know what I'm saying? All of this
ain't sugarcoat it.
Yeah. You got to be with the blunt nowadays.
You got to tell them the truth, man. I used to talk.
Yeah. No, I listen. I want to do that, Drew. I want to do that right now. I want to, because I wish, you know what we should have did, Mike and Eric?
What's
We
going
should have invited the news media tonight, right? We should have invited the news media because I want to do exactly what Drew just talked about. And I want to talk about a topic that Black men don't talk about. Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I ain't going to talk about relationships, so y'all can, you know, Tobias, you know, we can put the Kleenex up. We ain't gonna talk about relationships tonight, right? Because I know that's a difference too, Ron. I'm telling you. I mean, back in the days, you had to break out some Teddy Pendergrass, some Freddie Jackson. You know, David. You know, some Luther Vandross. Today, these cats don't break out Luther Vandross. No, man, they breaking out. Who's the little fella, man? I forget the little guy's name. Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne.
Like, Lil Wayne can't rap. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean,
I'm thinking
but
about.
I want to do exactly what Drew's talking about. I want to talk about a topic that I think more Black men should be talking about. Wall Street.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we need to do more discussion, Chauncey, around Wall Street. Here's the reason why. Last week, and I bet you nobody on this screen know this, but me. I know this.
All right, what is it?
And I'm challenging all of y'all the next time we have this meeting to know more about Wall Street than me. But did you know it took Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, Mike, 20 years to reach $100 billion in net worth. 20 years to make $100 billion net worth. Do you know how long it took Elon Musk, Harold?
No idea.
Chauncey?
Negative.
David? Ron?
Man, you said you had information that none of us knew.
Wasn't it
Exactly.
about like
Tobias,
7
do you know?
years?
He
It
probably
took
knocked it down
Elon Musk.
5 years.
Nope.
7.
Nope. Y'all ready?
Two.
Tobias, you ready?
Yeah.
It took Elon Musk, the founder of
SpaceX
Tesla,
and Tesla. Yeah.
And SpaceX,
to
right?
make $100 billion 11 months.
11 months.
So when you think about, that's why we got to start talking about Wall Street. When we start talking about, the Bible says a good man created a legacy for his children's children.
Yep.
So think about this. The days of the old corporate America way, Harold, it took Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, 20 years to get $100 billion net worth. Elon Musk, in February of this year, at zero, last week he reached $100 billion in 11 months. He is now the second richest man in the world.
But what's he doing?
So
right?
we got to start talking about Wall Street. We got to start talking about Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P 500, Russell 2000. We got to start talking about Wall Street, because if we're talking about Wall Street, brothers, our children would start talking about Wall Street.
But
I look at the Dow Jones every morning. US 30, I trade it every morning.
That's true.
So I think understand that is important. However, I'm gonna go back to the previous conversation we were having. And I think that because I've had to do this, as you know, I got kids that are involved in music, right? I could tell you when my daughter first talked about going to a college, to Berklee College of Music in Boston, I was like, what the hell is that? You need to be going to a school that's going to get you ready to be a doctor or a lawyer. You know, going to music school, what's that? But got to be accepting of those things. So I say learning Wall Street and all that's important. Also go back to the education piece and also being able to funnel people's desires and dreams and push them and encourage them to follow those is even more important, right? Because Elon Musk ain't making money doing some shit he don't want to do.
Yeah.
That's his passion.
Right,
and so we got to be able to foster that with our kids and not say, well, you got to go this route. in order to be successful, because you can be successful by following your dreams and creating the next, whatever it is, because you're doing something you love to do. So I think that they kind of go hand in hand, but we got to be careful about saying there's only this one path to follow in order to get that generational wealth.
But the finance is a really good discussion, but I would just add that to your point, getting our kids and younger people to understand the value of money and finances. In fact, what we're doing up here in our school district is they've taken out one of the algebra, I think it was algebra 2 that they took out that nobody uses once you take the course, and they've inserted a finance course so that you understand what stocks and bonds and the stock market is all about. Because I think one of the reasons why, because we're certainly one of the large consumer groups in the US, but we're probably a lot lower on the understanding of how to get the value of the money that we do spend. Because what we want is we want people to know that we've made it and we've had it. So we buy the top end, the high end stuff. But when you really value money, you make a little better decisions, and then you find that our debt would decrease. People would have better credit. So if you want to start a business, you don't have to go around and try to borrow money from different sources. You'll be able to know how to raise capital. So I would say add that finance piece. And
yeah, I agree. Oh yeah, education certainly.
What we encourage here is that most families, you have to really talk about finance within the household.
Yeah.
Because what we're finding is that kids come out, they're in debt a lot sooner than generations before them.
Right.
Kids come out of high school in debt. Kids come out of college in more debt. And I hired one young lady, she had $70,000 in debt coming out of a 4-year institution. It was not really, an upper echelon institution. And she had a hard time getting a credit card, which is what she needed with her job, because she was overextended on credit and not making enough income. So getting them to understand the credit aspect, the value of money, to me is very, very important. And that's something we can do within the home, as well as providing education. And I think, if I'm right, most people, senior people, will be willing to share some information around the value of money, because that's a less of a threatening type of power to give up, as opposed to a job type of a power situation.
And see, and that's important too, because there's a tendency for us to come out of college with all that debt, versus with our white counterparts, they've got trust fund kids. They come out of college, instead of having debt, they got a house, or they've got a account that's got 100 or 200,000 in there waiting for them as a graduation gift. So that's something that we've got to do now, and we've got to educate ourselves and our brothers and sisters to the left and to the right of us, so that as their children begin to go to college, now we know, based on that educational strategy you just mentioned, now we're talking that language, that financial language, that financial stewardship, and not having a sense of apathy when it comes to the finances, so that our children and our grandchildren, now we can begin to come out of college and not have to worry about being in debt, or we're paying it forward by having that house that's already paid for. So really it's incumbent upon us.
Exactly.
I think that,
and our sons and daughters.
Exactly.
Okay. I think that it's another thing that kind of gives me too, right? When we speak about debt and college and stuff, with these scholarships as well, just say if a white kid goes to like a HBCU, they get a scholarship just for being white going to a HBCU, right? And I don't feel like that's really fair to us. I could be wrong, but I feel like, you know what I'm saying, I don't think that's completely fair in our situation, you know what I'm saying, because they're, you know what I'm saying, a different race that they come here and they get the scholarships, but we still have to be in debt. You know what I'm saying? Does that kind of make sense?
You're right. It's not fair.
No, it used to be the other way around when I was coming through. They gave money to try to create more diversity in school. So there are a lot of people came through when I did, where they didn't have to pay much in the way of tuition. They had a lot of Black-oriented programs to get you up to speed. They helped you with everything you needed to get into the university and successfully graduate. So now it's interesting to see how they flipped that around, and it's going the other way now.
Because there have been,
it's good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but this is what makes it interesting, though, Ron and Eric. going back to what Tobias said, if he had the opportunity to talk to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, he wants his student debt eradicated, right? And so the question is, all right, so now you no longer are in debt. Do you do the right thing in terms of financial stewardship so you don't end up on that situation again, right? Because it's all about ROI, return on investment, right? And if you don't return on your investment, it's hard for Mike to say, hey, listen, I'm going to be a music producer, film producer, and here's my portfolio, but 5 years down the road, I've invested in him and I don't see no return on my investment. It's going to be hard for Mike to come back around that thing again, right? So I think, and there's studies that have shown that people who won the lottery, millions of dollars, they're broke within 5 years
70%.
because they don't have that financial discipline, that financial literacy, and we have to do more discussion around Wall Street. And I just use Wall Street, David, as a broader topic, but in the end, and I know we got to wrap up the show here soon, but the final topic I really want to talk about, if it's okay with you all, before we wrap up the show, and that is this. Where to from here? Where to from here, right? How do we make a difference? And so 12 months from now, we ain't talking about the same thing that Chauncey talked about earlier about networking, or what Drew talked about, listening and getting prepared, listening from old school, or, all the topics we talked about tonight, gentlemen. If we came back and we did a time capsule of this show, our point of view, and then 12 months from now, and we're still having the same conversation, the ball has not been moved down the field. Where to from here?
I feel like it's just really time to really hold each other more accountable. When someone says that they're going to do something, I was reading a book. It said you should hold your friends accountable for what they say so that they can remember that you have to be about your actions. It's not about what you say. Like, you can't change something by just saying, oh, I'm going to change it. Yeah, that's a small part. But if you don't execute, I feel like we need mentors and leadership, and the influencers that we're watching, we should be watching people that are actually showing you how to be productive with your time and not just how to waste it. Because one thing that you can't get back is time. And now that we see that there is no age on death, like you can die at 25, you can die at 95. Whenever God's time for you to go, you're going to go. So don't waste your time. I feel like we just need people to show people how they more likely execute on their actions.
I also think that this is important in order to move the ball forward. One of the things we talked about is about networking, but really, I teach acting and theater. It's about relationships, and by developing relationships and cultivating relationships. That's the one thing that I don't see a lot of young people do is cultivate relationships with people. But we have to do the same as well. So it's about everybody just checking their ego and doing it for the culture.
Yeah, to piggyback on you, I was thinking, for me, for example, for most all Black men, we're always told who we are in the media, in the news, on TV, and we find ourselves always having to overcome that, right? We're always trying to overcome this perception of who we are as people. And for me, I realized there was a certain point in my life where I had to break free of that and have self-actualization of who I am as a person. And once I was able to figure out who I was and my purpose in life, I was able to align myself with other people. And, the whole crabs in a barrel thing, we always hear that when it comes to Black people, right? That's with everybody in the world. We're all, if an explosion happened, we all running because we're trying to not die, right? That's our whole goal. We're not trying to die. We're trying to live and be safe. But I think that if people dig deeper inside of who you are and understand who you are, we'll realize that we all are in this together, that it's not about, when your life is over, it's about you doing something to help the next generation, over and over and over again. When it's all said and done, what was your part to make the world a better place? At least that's what I'm thinking. But I lived my life so selfish for such a long time because I spent most of my life trying to prove to the world that I was worthy, and prove to the world that I was a good person, and prove to the world that I deserve a particular type of love from it when it's not giving it to me. So I had to give it to myself. And now that I've found it, I'm able, like I said, to align myself and to realize that it's not about me. It's not about me at all. It's about all of us together. And once we all realize that, it'll sort of settle and we can find these answers that we're looking for. But, you know, like small thing, a lot of Black men, you know, and no judgment to anybody, well, a little bit based on who you voted for, but a lot of more Black men this time voted for Trump than the last time.
Yep.
And I think that's because Black men are just trying to make it. Black men are like, I gotta make it. Me, my family, I gotta make it because my family need to make it out the hood. My family need to keep this money. My family need to make these millions. When it is about your family, but it's about us as a community and as a whole. And if you ain't looking at the community as a whole and you looking at yourself, you're not doing it right. And a big part of why people are living that way is because they haven't self-actualized who they really are, understand the power of who we are as Black men and the power that we have when we are working together to create a common goal. Black power was this whole idea of Black power is so big, you know, decades ago, and then some happened, it stopped, and now we're trying to self-actualize this Black power, but we still, you know, trying to figure it out right now. And I think that we got to get back to understanding our true power and the nature of who we are. People say, "What's up, King?" but don't really understand what that means. People just saying, "What's up, King?" It's like, yeah, but that's real. That's not just a what's up. Like it's something that should ignite you to realize who you are. And I think a lot of Black men, we don't know that yet because the world has been beating us down so long that we're still trying to fight ourselves out of that.
Right.
You had green power to kind of twist that up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. People got.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's exactly.
That was one of the reasons why a lot of them did vote. Some of the rappers, because they were concerned about a couple aspects of economics as opposed to the mindset of the country. And I think we underestimate leadership, how important leadership is, because through this whole pandemic, the mindset of the country, the mental health of the country was all centered around leadership. People were getting stressed out. Different things were going on different places. And it was reflective always of the leadership. When there's no leadership, what we saw was internal chaos.
Yeah.
And also, I think too, real quick, that as Black men, especially cis Black men, we need to realize too, I mean, and it sounds crazy, but there's a privilege that comes along with being a man. There's a privilege that comes along with being cis male. And there are other marginalized communities that we forget about because we're so busy trying to prove that, you know, we real men and we gonna make it. And the world is flooded with so many different type of people who are being ostracized and that we forget about. And like I said, if you just actualize your power and understand who you are, we can begin to see these other groups. Like a lot of the men that voted didn't think about women. They weren't thinking about gay people. They weren't thinking about, there's so many different people in the world that need our help just to live a simple life. But this hyper toxic masculinity that we've been brought up in is like, oh, I just got to get mine. I got to make this money. It's so much more than just that. That does not make a real man. The things that you covet don't make a real man. Being a real man is something completely different than what you covet with the gold. Like, sure, I got gold too, and I love wearing it. And I've worked really hard to be able to afford it. But I also understand that who I am as a person is to uplift not just me, but all the people around me of different sizes and races and sexualities and where they live and how it's just not about just us. It's about, not about me, it's about everybody. And I think that one of the biggest issues that us as Black men have is this toxic masculine thought process that teaches us one way to be a man. And there's so many different ways to exert your manhood and to be a real man. And I think we get caught up in that.
Many Black men fight their ego daily and no one even knows it because they hide it.
I think, Tobias, what you were saying on, hits a core with me, and it's one of two different, I guess, two words as selfless service, servant leadership are the things that come to mind, right? So while it's about us, you have to have embody that kind of mindset that you want to help others out and not just think about yourself, right? You've got to have that kind of mindset if we are collectively going to be able to move forward and progress. Because if you're all out for self, then as a collective people, you know, our future is doomed, really.
Yeah.
So it is about making changes within yourself for the betterment of the people.
Right.
Yeah. I think people choose fear over love and not living in abundance and understanding that there's enough. There's enough for everybody. You don't have to, you know, it's just simple as the tissue when COVID came. Everybody took like you got the only butthole in the world. Like, I mean, like, why? There's enough for everybody.
Right.
But you have to.
There's
you
enough
have
for
to
everybody to
that
eat, man.
abundance.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
Yeah, but
enough for everybody to eat.
challenge though, Tobias, the reason why fear is a default for a lot of folks is because fear, you don't have to understand each other,
Yeah.
right?
right.
To love, you have to understand each other. That means
Yeah.
you got to take time, you got to invest in it, you got to do those things in order for you to do it,
Yeah.
and to be committed, and to be trustworthy, and to be transparent. Fear, you know, I'm afraid of you. You're the boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
Ray, you know, John, you know, y'all, you know, you're the boogeyman. So it's real easy to create this profile, right? That we've been talking about, the stereotype.
Right.
It's real easy. In that way, you can be fearful of one another. It's easier.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work to love a person, right? Again, we ain't talking about relationships tonight, Eric. We will not. I want to make sure Jacqueline and Jen and those, and no, we ain't talking about relationships. They talked about relationships 2 weeks ago. This is the wrong channel tonight. We ain't talking about relationships. Hey, but listen, Eric, I know we got to do a wrap of the show. You want to, any final words, you and Mike?
Well, I just want to say this just to real quick. When I went to a fire department, a fire service leadership school, the motto was, all that I am, I owe. I live internally in the red. So it is up to me. It is incumbent upon me that I pass this information on. No matter how hard I feel it may be internally, not to let it go, I've got to pass it on because the clock is still rolling. The hands of time are still going around clockwise. So I've got to be willing to share the information and be willing to share it gracefully, respectfully, and lovingly, so that, again, our children's children can move forward and pass this information along to our fellow brothers and sisters. But that said, man, what a powerful discussion we had tonight, man. All of you brothers, all 10 of you brothers are phenomenal brothers. You know, it brought it. I felt good when Brother Peters was talking and he said he came out of high school. Merely look how good that brother looks. He came out of high school a year after I was born, and that brother's looking like he's in his 30s, in his 40s.
Right.
So we've got to be comfortable within ourselves, complimenting one another, supporting one another, loving one another, and checking one another when we need to.
Right.
Yeah.
Hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
Mike, what say you, Mike? Closing words.
I just feel like from my generation standpoint, I just feel like we just need to just be real coachable and understand that you guys have been where we're trying to go. So it's okay to take some knowledge from someone that's a little bit older than you. Like, we don't know everything. Like, just like, don't be too ego, like all being ego and like trying to like tell people.
Be optimistic.
Yeah. So just really just like take the advice that's thrown at you, because it's not to hurt you, it's to help you, because no one wants to see us go down the drain like Uncle Tom does. Like we have to run this world once you guys are gone. So if we don't know how to run the world and all we know how to do is dance on TikTok, we're going to be in trouble in like 20, 30 years. So we need to have those leaders, like you said, to step up and really take charge and say, look, one of us got to do it, you know? So.
Yeah. Well, listen, on behalf of
Excuse me, Derek. Can
Eric,
I, say one thing before you go?
Yeah.
First of all, I want to just thank you guys. I was kind of invited to be on.
Thanks for
But
coming.
you guys know Jackie, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, she's on deck.
oh yeah, we know Jacqueline.
Well,
She's watching.
okay.
She's watching.
Just a little. Jackie was my. She was one of my junior high students.
Mm.
Wow.
And
Wow.
we connect on Facebook, and she sent she messengered me and asked me if I would be willing to participate. So I just want to thank Jackie for inviting me to participate, and it was certainly my pleasure to meet you guys.
Yes, sir.
And this time this evening with you. I really enjoyed myself.
All right. Thank you for coming, sir.
Yeah. Well, listen, we appreciate Ron, David, Tobias, Drew, Chauncey, Harold. We really appreciate, you all sharing your thoughts and your view. And on behalf of Eric and Mike and myself, always follow us, because on this show, it's all about our point of view.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, guys.
Good evening.
All right.
You guys have a good one. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, thank you so
Nice
much
to
for
meet
having
you.
me.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.
Safe out there. Stay safe.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right.